Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's good to see all of you and that you're
You
all doing
too.
well in the midst of all this crazy. And congratulations, because the show is absolutely terrific. I just devoured it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks,
Sure,
Dave.
sure. It's my pleasure. Jeremy, I'd like to start with you. You play Archie, the aspiring writer in this show, and I really feel like he's the heart and soul in many ways of the series.
Mhm.
You're somebody, this is your first series, correct me if I'm wrong, for television.
Correct. You are right. You are very right.
Okay, making sure. But you have a long stage resume. So I'm curious, for you approaching your first major role in a show like this, how does your acting style change when you're transitioning from stage to screen?
Yeah, it's it's very different. I think being coming from theater, you have your live audience there. You get to do your show from beginning, middle to end. Whereas with film and what we were doing, we were shooting things out of order. Sometimes you don't know, you don't have a script available. But I think what we were able to do, or what I was able to do, is just find out who Archie was, create a narrative. I'm not playing a real character, so I got to build my own story, where he came from, what his parents were like, and create my own narrative. So I felt confident and grounded in the work, so that when I got to set, it was playtime. It was like an improv class. That's kind of how Ryan works. It's collaborative. He wants to hear your thoughts. You're there to hear his and create this vision together. Me and Jake, our first day together was our first like sex scene, and very emotionally connected scene. So we had to kind of just jump in and go there for each other. But again, we were just so gracious to be open. We knew what story we were telling. We know how important the story was. So again, it just made it so much easier, or it made not so much, but it made it easier for us to just trust each other and know that we were all kind of in it together.
Sure, that's wonderful. Jim, I want to ask you, you play Henry Wilson, who was a real person, a rather snake-like human being, from what I understand, closeted gay manager who liked to manipulate his clients. Needless to say, this is quite a departure from the nice guy parts that we're accustomed to seeing you in.
Yes.
My question for you, when you're playing a character who's that, kind of reprehensible, how do you find an into the character? How do you find his vulnerability so ultimately you don't hate him yourself?
Luckily, there was a decent amount of reading I could do on Henry Wilson to give enough background and enough afterward, what happened later in his life, that, he didn't always have the best ways of going about things, and perhaps his focus was very myopic and selfish at times. That being said, he was doing for the best he knew how in his own sort of sick way at times. And I did find enough empathy for him that I could bring to it as I did it. And to be fair and to be honest about it, the chance to do some of the things that he did are so different from any way I would ever want to act or would think to act in real life. There was some fun in it. I'm not going to get that opportunity very often, thank God. One shouldn't take that opportunity very often. But in this circumstance, with the kinds of people I was working with and the way that they would play off of the obnoxious information I was giving them, was really fun.
That's fantastic. And you look great in like a sort of belly dancing. I don't know what you would call that
Thank
dress,
you.
but
It was the seven veils of Salome, I'll have you know.
Well, that's fun segue. Jake, you're playing the great Rock Hudson in this. And this sort of piggybacks off something that Jeremy, you were saying. Rock was obviously a real person, but the Rock that we see in the series is slightly different from the Rock in real life. To my mind, Rock Hudson was actually a pretty good actor. He's not the most skilled actor when we meet him in this show. So my question to you is, how do you balance out what we know about Rock in real life with what you're required to do for the story of the show?
Totally. I think this was, in terms of Rock, it was a story of his progression to stardom. So it was that story of growth and kind of the insides, part of his life, and dealing with garnering representation from Henry Wilson and kind of feeling, ostracized for who he was. And I think that that's where the tragedy lies, because I believe he's a hero, but the tragedy is that, he felt like he had to keep certain things to himself. So, you know, it was a interesting and incredible journey, honestly.
Well, thanks so much, you guys. You've been wonderful. And congratulations again on the show.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
David.
much.
Sure.